Everybody, we're going to kick this off. Welcome in. My name is Daniel Barrera Ortega, and I'm the programs coordinator at the School Garden Support Organization, or affectionately dubbed SGSO Network. Welcome to today's webinar, Growing Students and Teachers Overcoming School Garden Barriers in Ohio's largest school district, presented by Katie Young, Farm to School Coordinator at Columbus City School, Ohio, and Timothy McDermott, Assistant Professor at Agriculture and Natural Resources at Ohio State University Extension, Ohio as well. If you're not familiar with us, if this is your first time at one of our webinars, welcome. As I said, we're the School Garden Support Organization Network, and we're an open peer-to-peer learning network for school garden professionals. And we provide free resources, professional and leadership development, as well as platforms for connection for members that serve at the local district, state, regional, national, and we also have an international audience. So international level as well. And these webinars are one of the ways in which we like to share the knowledge from the very amazing network that we have. So we're just going to go through some general housekeeping before we get started. This call will be recorded. It will be posted in our recording library by the end of the day, really. You'll get it in your inbox directly. There's also a slide deck and resource handout that's curated by our presenters that will be dropped in the chat shortly if you'd like to explore it. These are additional resources as well as the slides if you'd like to follow along. You'll be here for an hour and 15 minutes, so we're gonna wrap up at about 12:30, 12:15 Pacific and 3:15 Eastern. And also, we would love to hear your feedback at the end of this webinar. This is how we maintain high quality content and content that is relevant to you as well. So please we'd love to hear your feedback at the end of today's presentation. Some general announcements and resources from the network. I always plug our peer learning communities. These are spaces that are organized by members and are managed by members as well, focusing on specific roles, organization types, or interest. They meet once a month not in person, sorry. They meet once a month online to just talk shop, share resources, successes, and challenges. They also have a small contact list so they can communicate whenever it is that they need it. So these are really amazing resources to extend the learning from today. Some examples are School Garden Professional Development Peer Learning Community, district-led school garden programs if you work for a district and manage a school garden program, or if you're a program director and program managers. And this is just a sampling of the PLCs that we have. We have a full roster. If you're interested, there will be a link in the chat for you to browse the full roster and apply a request to join one. And of course, if you don't see one that applies for you and you think that will be helpful to begin, you can start a PLC, just email info@sgsonetwork.org and we can follow up on what that looks like. We also right now have applications open for a mentorship program. This is a year-long cohort where 30 experienced leaders are going to be paired with 2 mentees, and they'll receive coaching and personalized feedback for an entire year, as well as some training on both sides if you're a mentor or mentee. Applications for mentees specifically are open through August 31st. It's on a sliding scale, including a $0 option, which is not weighed into the admission process. And we also, this program will feature quarterly cohort calls, small group calls between mentors and the 2 mentees that they will be paired with, and also individual coaching, which is the heart and bread and butter of the program. There will be 60 mentee spots available. Applications are open. Please definitely share or apply before they close. We're also in the process of doing a big call for data for the National School Garden Map. This is a project that we undertook in partnership with the Edible School Year Project, National Farm to School Network, Kids Gardening, as well as EcoRise, and generously funded by the USDA Patrick Leahy Farm to School Grant and the Sprouts Healthy Communities Foundation. This is a great project for us to visualize what the school garden movement looks like right now, and we would love to include your data, so please send it and share it to us by August 28th. You can learn more on what that process looks like, how you can check for yourself in the map because you might already be there, and how you can provide updated data as well through our website. We have a data submission form, or if you want to submit multiple sites, we also have a process. So please email me at daniel@sgsonetwork.org if that is something that you'd be interested in exploring. More information in the chat as well. And lastly, this webinar today is part of our Growing School Garden Summit webinar series that we are launching in partnership with Kids Gardening and generously funded by the Sprouts Healthy Communities Foundation. This series features speakers from the 2026 Growing School Garden Summit that happened in Phoenix, Arizona in February, and it's expanded from being just six webinars last year to 12 with Kids Garden support. So we're really excited to continue sharing. Um, Kids Gardening, if you're not familiar, are an amazing organization. They help kids play, learn, and grow through gardening and have amazing resources on how to engage with children in the gardens, as well as how do you create and develop a school garden program. Definitely recommend that you check them out. Links for their website will be dropped in the chat. And we would love for you to join us in upcoming webinars. Kids Gardening will be hosting the next one, Undoing Borders Through Food and Alternative History, on Wednesday, September 9th, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. I believe it will also include a cooking demonstration, which is really cool. And then we will be hosting our next one also in September, September 30th, sharing the bounty, telling your data-driven story, all about how do you collect data and how do you use it in storytelling. It will happen, as I said, September 30th, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Links to subscribe to register will be dropped in the chat briefly. Once again, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to turn it over to our amazing presenters, Timothy and Katie. So please take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Tim and I are joining you from Columbus, Ohio, and we actually are having one of our first days this month without rain, so we're pretty happy. We're excited to share our story with you today, and we're going to get started with talking about how us as Ohio's largest school district has overcome barriers to develop a school garden program that grows more than food.
So, Daniel, can you hear us okay? Since we started
Yep,
sharing?
and the screen is perfectly visible too.
Perfect.
Awesome.
And my name's Katie Young, and I'm the Farm to School Coordinator for Columbus City Schools.
And I'm Tim McDermott. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Extension here at Ohio State University. And Daniel has a poll that he is going to drop in to get some poll question stuff going for later on in the presentation.
Awesome. I'm going to open our intro poll and please start voting now. I'm seeing answers rolling in. I'm going to keep it open for about 30 more seconds. We'd love to hear, what is the top barrier for your school garden program development? Is it time, insufficient funds, maintenance of garden spaces, lack of expertise and training, space and site limitations, or lack of support or buy-in? I feel like I'm watching a horse race as the answers come in.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. We're gonna keep it open for about 10 more seconds before we carry on with our presentation of today. And you'll see the results a little bit later, so get excited for that. And poll is closing. There we go. Results will be shared later in the presentation, so please take it away.
So our goals for today's session are, we want our participants to learn how to identify and overcome some of those barriers that were in the poll right there. And then we also want you to see some examples of different potential stakeholders that you collaborate with to take your program to the next level. And we also want you to learn some strategies to obtain that district-wide buy-in and buy-in from teachers and administrators and students in the community. A little bit about Columbus City Schools. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on this, but I do want you to know that we have about 47,000 students, over 107 schools in the district, and we have 100 spoken languages, very diverse population, as you can see here. Specifically to our Farm to School program, our Farm to School program started in 2018 with only 16 school gardens. At that point, it was strictly funded by the food service department, and it has expanded to gardens at over 76 schools, and our program is working in over 350 classrooms throughout the district. The mission of our Farm to School program is we want our kids actively learning, getting their hands in the soil and doing that experiential learning. We want to address those health disparities by increasing the availability of fresh produce for our kiddos. We want our kids learning to cooperate with each other, and we want them to learn how to simply take care of something other than themselves. And our last mission is to expose our students to different career paths in agriculture. And Tim's going to talk a little bit more about this.
Okay, so we showed you some of the common identified barriers in the poll question, and what we have tried to do is identify those barriers early on so that we can address them right off the bat. We know that if we have barriers present, then that is going to slow the implementation of school gardens, or it could completely eliminate the implementations of school gardens. So when we talk about how we want to address them, it comes down to a lot of time, money, and knowledge. And we're going to go through the ways that we've addressed all of these barriers. But we also have a couple other things. Sometimes when we want to grow at CCS schools outside, we might not have a location. You need to have sun, or you need to have a space in there. And then sometimes there are some barriers that are really out of our direct control, and that would be some administration barriers if they don't wish to have that participation at their schools.
So Daniel, can you pull up the results from our poll?
Absolutely. Sharing them right now.
Okay, so we see that insufficient funds, maintenance of the space, and buy-in are some of the three highest barriers for you guys today.
So we want to make sure that as we go through, we address these. But if we don't address them to your satisfaction, or you have some questions, especially about the barriers that you face in your school garden implementation, make sure that you address that with Katie and I when we get to the Q&A section.
So we have been lucky enough in Columbus City Schools to have a very strong partnership with Tim and other OSU Extension team members. I believe that this has been one of the biggest reasons our program has been able to expand as much as it has. And Tim's going to talk. Oh, we've also had some industry partners with Crop King, and we have a local conservatory here that we have students going to field trips, and we've got members from the conservatory coming into our classrooms to engage with students. We have a local urban farm that we partner with quite a bit for field trips and large agriculture events here with our students. And we have departments in our district, like our construction arts department, who help with building some of the raised beds that the students are using in the gardens.
So as you take a look at this list, this is a list of partners that we work with in our collaboration with Columbus City Schools. But think if you have an analog partner, or what other partners that you can identify from this list that maybe you haven't reached out to, that you could reach out to bring them into your collective or your collaborative. So me working with Extension here at Ohio State, we're in Columbus. That's where main campus is, where Columbus City Schools is. But there is an Extension office in all 88 counties in Ohio, which allows us to work statewide. And then if you have not engaged with the Extension in your state, there is a land-grant university with extensions in all 50 states. There's a lot of benefits Extension can bring. We can be technical resources. We can assist with collaboration on grants. I can do site visits. I can host different events here, which we'll talk about later on. And then I want to highlight the industry collaboration that we have. Here in Ohio, agriculture is our number one industry, and we need more kiddos going into these skilled agriculture professions. But what we find in urban environments is it can be very difficult for us to put agriculture in front of students unless we create that agriculture in their classroom or bring them to agricultural areas. When we have an industry partner, they can provide the necessary feedback in order to make sure that we are engaging students in the various ways that agriculture is looking going forward, so that we can better prepare or at least engage kiddos in the different techniques for agriculture that is more future-based.
Here's a short video, just a little bit more about the Farm to School program and how our partnership with OSU Extension started. 2018, Columbus City Schools Farm to School program partnered with OSU Extension to develop a Growing Teachers Throughout the Season guidebook. We invited 46 of our CCS teachers to come and give their feedback. Scott's Miracle Grow and Scott's Miracle Grow Foundation helped us get the supplies we needed.
It's not a typical sit down, sit in one spot. We're up, we're moving all the time.
We're looking at following kind of the student's lead and really looking at what are the things that really are interesting to them and what is it that they want to do.
Every day I could wake up and be like, I know I'm going to do something cool in class because it's always hands-on. So we're either always watering plants, we're either potting, planting, propagating. There's always something happening.
We've been able to add gardens every year. We have teachers that engaged in most of our schools that love the gardens. It's a great way for experiential learning. And with partners like Scott's, it's an opportunity for us to grow it and continue to have more and more. We want kids to understand that if this is something they enjoy, there's careers in this industry and they can do this for a living. They can take care of themselves, their family, and their community by working in the agricultural industry.
I love seeing the progress along the way. I love watching things start from a seed and become something amazing, especially with the tomatoes. It's going to be something we can eat. It just makes me feel a sense of peace.
It's a wonderful experience to watch them grow and to see the excitement on their face.
So we definitely want to acknowledge and thank Scott's Miracle Grow, another Central Ohio company. They provided some of the foundational funding to get the program really started about 8 years ago. So the project that Katie had referenced in the video called Growing Teachers Throughout the Seasons is a really powerful tool in the toolbox that we've used to grow school gardens here in Columbus City Schools and other schools in Franklin County. What it is an academic calendar-based harvest of the month using 3 different growing methods: outdoor raised beds, indoor LED lighting with seed starting and propagation, and then indoor classroom-based hydroponics to allow students to plant, maintain, harvest, cook, and eat 9 different produce items. We have a booklet that we created, and it is more than just a planting guide. It's a materials guide. It has a table that describes what you do and when, so teachers can plan around it. It has connections for various subject matters, because growing can be subject matter independent. It doesn't have to be just science teachers. We have math teachers and language arts teachers. We have social studies. We have nurses, building subs, librarians are implementing this in the schools. And then we also have recipes so that there's some guidance on how you can do some kid-tested, kid-approved recipes for cooking with the produce that they harvest. And even for where the sweet spot is for this, which is elementary and pre-CTE middle, we have some books that we can recommend for teachers to read with their kiddos in classroom. We also created 20 supplemental modules that have really that technical resource, kid-friendly videos on seed starting, safe food harvest, transplanting, watering, the basics of lighting and controlled environment agriculture. We provided links, and those will be shared for you so that you can access the guidebook or you can access the modules, because really what we created is an introductory guide for teachers that want to get started but need to know where they can get started.
So here are just two examples or a couple of photos of what our gardens look like. We started with the 4x8 raised bed, and we use season extensions. So this gardens are growing from September all the way through May. We also wanted to highlight that this 4x8 raised bed, a lot of learning can happen in that one garden bed. I know a lot of people get really excited and they want to start off really strong and think that you need to have 10 to 12 raised garden beds, or that every single classroom has to have their own garden bed. We've done it, and we believe that one 4x8 raised bed can be shared by multiple classes. They could take turns growing different things throughout the school year. And then we also have the indoor growing stations where we have an AeroGarden harvest where they are growing basil the first semester, and then they are growing heirloom cherry tomatoes for the second semester of the school year. And in our under the LED seed starting station, they are starting the seeds that they can either grow to finish in the seed starting station, or they can start the plants and transplant them out into the raised bed.
So as you look at these three methods, there's a couple of things to point out that are really good engagement pieces or things that address some of the barriers. One is on the bottom left, you see a low tunnel that has a season extension garden cover over it. Believe it or not, here in Columbus, Ohio, up in chilly winter Ohio, we plant our spinach and our kale around October, and then we overwinter it in those covers. And then the kiddos will harvest their spinach and their kale in January and February for spinach smoothies and kale chips. So that is an introduction to some basic technology for how we can grow. And then we do have some schools that, since they can't participate in outdoor growing, but they still want to participate in the program, we have found that those LED lights that we use are powerful enough that you can grow and mature all of the things that are in the Growing Teacher's Guidebook indoors on a countertop in your classroom if you are unable to grow outside.
And we like the indoor component because it's not something that has to take a half an hour of learning every day. The kids come in, they put their book bag away, they go over and they make their observations in the garden and do any jobs that need to be done relating to the gardens in the classroom. And then they just start their day with their morning work. So it doesn't take a lot of daily time and effort from the teacher.
And we use this to normalize the growing of plants and agriculture to urban students that might not always see that the way a kid growing up on a farm would see that. Growing up on a farm, they're going to start working with plants or animals at a very young age. And so if we put something growing in the classroom where the kiddos can see that every single day, then that becomes normal. That breaks any kind of barriers that they would have with hesitancy about that. And that engagement when they're very young, we have found to be effective at maintaining the engagement throughout middle and high school. And in fact, we have started our engagement even before that and have now started doing the growing teachers in early care and education, where we'll put hydroponics in front of 3-year-olds.
So one way that we've been able to make this project work throughout such a large district is the teachers are on the same schedule, the same planting schedule. Their seed starting, their harvesting, and their food tastings are happening at the same time across the district. And we also are giving them all of the supplies that they need. It's not like, hey, we've got this cool program that's happening. Here's a list of things that you need to go out and find funding for. We are providing them all of the seeds, the soil, the grow lights, the AeroGardens, the fertilizer, the extension cords, the timers. They receive that entire kit in a nice organized box after their training, and they can take it right back to the classroom to get started with the students. And then each fall, the teachers who were already existing in the program will come and they'll just get a refreshed supply kit of just additional soil, seeds, and the things that were consumable. So our program has grown quite a bit over the last couple years, especially because of this Growing Teachers Throughout the Seasons guidebook. Teachers see that it's easy to do. Teachers are talking about it with other teachers, and the kids are excited to take on that ownership of the project. So it's not a lot of extra work for the teacher. We find that many teachers are just training a few specific students on how to maintain the units. And then once those students master it, they're teaching it to a few other students. So it's really kind of train the kids and then the kids train other kids. Some other things that have really helped are making sure that the teachers get those classroom growing kits where they have all the supplies they need. For the outdoor raised beds, we're dropping off the frame at the building. The kids are putting the hoops on, they're filling it with those bags of soil. We also offer a lot of professional development for the teachers, and that's been a huge partnership with Tim in the Extension office here. We offer ongoing professional development, and Tim really takes into account what the teachers are interested in. So we have the basic growing stuff that we're doing, but the teachers who have been in it for years have asked for more and more enrichment activities.
Yeah, so as you look at this list, see if there's anything on here that maybe you could drop as an idea to implement in growing your garden program. A lot of these are to either identify and address a barrier or to provide energy and keep the program maintaining and provide that knowledge support for teachers. So really, one of the things that we have found to be a tremendous driver and energy influx for teachers is that professional development. I'll host one or two CEU provided sessions each month. We do it right after school so we can get teachers home before dinner. And then what we do is we mix up the topics based on teacher feedback. So it's needs assessment driven. For example, one of the big asks that we had with all the teachers that were implementing this at multiple subject matters and multiple grades, because this is now pre-K through 12, all subject matters, was a deeper dive into curriculum that they could use so that they can start using their growing to satisfy some of the standards that they have. So I was able to connect with a colleague here at Ohio State University in our ACEL department. They're the group that trains ag teachers, and she was able to develop a website. She can bring her students in, they can run activities. We can show teachers how to do the activity and experiential learning where they can actually do it. And then they can take that right back to their classroom in order to implement that with their students. And then another thing that we have that we're blessed here, but I think you're going to be able to find examples of it wherever you're at, is here at Ohio State, we do have a research farm. On that research farm, we are growing agronomic crops, we're growing vegetable crops and specialty crops. We also have a controlled environment agriculture research complex. So we have a state-of-the-art greenhouse where I can bring students and teachers on field trips. They can see the actual industry growing, and that can allow them to visualize that. And then what Katie and I are really excited about is this year we just opened the multi-species animal learning complex. So now we'll be able to engage kiddos in animal agriculture.
And with those field trips that we're providing to the teachers and their students, our farm to school program actually funds the admission and the transportation cost for that. So it's another benefit of being part of the program. They get those free field trips throughout the school year. So funding was one of those big ones in our poll here. Like I said, at the beginning, it was just CCS, food service, and some funds from Scott's Miracle-Gro to get our program up and running. This was before my time, but the former farm to school coordinator started with the Scott's funds, working with OSU Extension, working with our home improvement company, Lowe's, we have a Lowe's home improvement here that did a lot of initial funding for materials to make those first raised garden beds. We do have a large real estate family here in Columbus who has given us a very generous amount of money for 5 years, for a 5-year period. And that has really lifted that need for writing a lot of grants from my end. So that donation has been very helpful. And a lot of these opportunities and funding opportunities have come from just sharing the story of our farm to school program with everyone that I meet and getting connected to people through our extension office and through our other community garden groups. So I recommend talking up your program, mentioning it to anyone you can, because I feel like we were connected with the real estate company because somebody in their family likes gardens and was interested in our program, and that connection just kind of grew from there. Our industry partners have also been very generous with not necessarily funding, but providing materials and units for in the classroom. The USDA Patrick Leahy Farm to School grant has also helped with getting those advanced hydroponics into the classroom. Smaller grants from our SWACO, Columbus Public Health, and our local government and Board of Commissioners has also helped with some of our funding.
So we do know that monetary barriers exist and finding funding can be a challenge. We found that it was a challenge early on, and it's a little trite to say it, but don't be afraid to ask for money, or don't just be afraid to ask for money. See what other potential things can be donated. Maybe that is soil, maybe that is seeds, maybe that is time, maybe that's connections. We honestly do hustle and grind for money pretty often in order to keep this funded. Wouldn't it be a wonderful thing if this was a line item into state level funding or national level funding? Until that happens, we're going to ask for money. Now, here are some tips and tricks on finding your cash. I mentioned connecting with your local extension person. That is going to be powerful because extension brings the agriculture technical expertise into grant applications, especially when you go for the larger ones like USDA, Farm to School, or USDA NIFA. Tell your story, like Katie mentioned. We know what is a positive story, and that is kiddos that are learning and they're engaged and they're doing well. When I do write my grants, I do find that when we talk about positively impacting kiddos, when we talk about agriculture and we talk about STEM-based learning, those are things that still get funded. And what that has turned into here in Columbus, Ohio, and Franklin County, which is the county we're in right now, is such positive momentum, so many kiddos engaged, that story has grown to where our local government did start to fund that and put that into a local food needs assessment that shakes out a little bit of extra funding for schools in order to grow their programs. And then going back to that growing teachers throughout the seasons, when we built that, knowing that funding was going to be a potential barrier for teachers, we kept the cost for implementation pretty inexpensive. And you can start with a growing teachers for a school for probably close to about $600, which can be a lot for some schools. But that is a funding level that we feel like you could meet with a local grant or potentially even talk to your school about using STEM budgets or things for that.
Another one of the things that you guys said for barriers was getting the buy-in, the teacher buy-in, the administrator buy-in, and the community buy-in. So for sure, the teacher buy-in, and we've asked the teachers, we're like, why is this program successful? Why do you want to continue it? And these are the things that they've said to us. They like how they don't have to go out and find the funding for the resources needed to run the program. They like how they can check off their continuing credit hours that are required for teachers. So all of those PDs that we talked about, they are getting 0.2 CEUs for each session that they attend, which helps them keep their certification active. getting those field trip buses paid for. We do a garden leader appreciation dinner where we are creating those harvest recipes and everybody comes and shares them together. And then that ongoing support, it's not a come to one training and you're done and you never hear from us again. It is ongoing support, newsletters, site visits, classroom lessons, ongoing professional development. The administrators like it because it doesn't cost the school anything. And they like it because those indoor classroom growing systems are embedded right into their daily classroom routines. It's not taking a lot of extra time away from the standards that have to be covered. One way that you can get that administrator buy-in is invite them to harvest celebrations, have them hear the kids talk about the program and growing their own food. And like we've said before, share your story with the community, everyone that you meet, and those connections will happen. And share it on social media and encourage your teachers participating in the program to share their work in the school newsletters. So for our resources and communication, the GTS program, the Growing Teachers Throughout the Season orientation happens in the fall. So next week we will have supply pickup for the teachers who have already been to the training, and then we will offer new teacher training. So anybody who wants to join in on the program this year will come to that 2-hour training that will receive all of their supplies and support for the rest of the school year. We do monthly newsletters. We have our website. We have that ongoing professional development. The teachers really enjoy when we have our PD sessions and our meetings. We do harvest tastings. We prep some of the food with them so the teachers get a chance to practice making the kale chips or making the tomato basil skewers. We also, due to that large donation from our real estate partners, we've been able to bring on some retired CCS teachers to come back into the farm to school program, and they are actually able to go out to the classrooms to assist any teachers who might want help teaching the garden lesson or an extra set of hands when they're harvesting or planting in the outdoor beds. And we always invite our district media to any of our events, so they're able to share out what's happening with everybody else.
And to stress those farm to school educators, honestly, a tremendous amount of the credit and success for the program at Columbus City Schools is because they had the foresight to hire Katie and her predecessor, Chris, in order to have that point person for the teachers to contact for the program to be able to have somebody to talk to the collaborators and the community partners and the person who is going to be the primary organizer of grant applications and all of the things that you see with the resources and communication. I can say that when I work with different districts, if I have that one person that I can get a hold of and they're able to make decisions and act as that liaison with other teachers, I know that the success of that program is going to be much more likely because they've invested in the program by putting somebody in charge of it at the teacher level.
And my position is fun. I'm a teacher on special assignment, so I was in the classroom for 28 years before I took on this role, and my salary is covered by the food service department in our district. Go ahead.
Okay, so this program has grown into other things, which has been awesome. We've been working for the past 8 years, taking it from that 16 to 76, and that's at roughly 110 buildings. So something like 70% of the largest district in the state of Ohio participate in this. But then we started getting teachers that wanted to do other things.
Teachers and students.
And students, they want to grow other stuff. And so what we did is we applied for a USDA farm to school grant called Advanced Hydroponics in the Classrooms of CCS. We now had teachers that they've been through year one, they just got started, maybe needed just a little bit of support. Then year two, they're on their way. Year three, they are plant people. We're getting lots of other asks from students that they want to grow other stuff. And so this grant was written to provide knowledge and trial with 10 teachers each year over a 2-year period, so 20 total, how we can grow anything in the classroom. There was a question that was up in the chat and they wanted to know, how do we grow different things in Houston because it's so hot? When you grow them indoors in a classroom in a hydroponic unit, you eliminate that negative impact, and it allows you to really utilize the entirety of the academic calendar because you start planting early in the fall and you're harvesting in November and December in there. So we're going to share some of the success stories in there, but we got another really cool video to show you.
I can say it's truly magical. They love the taste of fresh produce just from the plant. Some of my students don't even know where some food comes from the grocery stores. So they learn so many things when they garden.
So they really want to be a part of it. Some of them at first, they're really excited about it, but then there are others that say, I really want to know a little bit more about this. So it's more than just looking and glancing at it. It's like, how can I be a part of this? Because I've seen it go from being just a seed and now it's growing and I want to be a part of that process.
So they really take care of everything and do it all and know how to do it all. And they have a lot of pride in that, in showing whoever comes into our classroom what they do and how they do it and what they've grown.
I think it's really cool that they're learning how food is actually grown now, because so many places are using all hydroponics, and so it's really opening their mind to see different ways that food can grow.
Learning how to grow is really important, and when you see it in person, it's a lot different than just reading about it or seeing pictures of it. And taking the fresh produce that you grow and then being able to cook it and taste it in your classroom, then potentially going home and requesting it at home, I think is pretty powerful of an impact.
It tastes different because it's more fresh at the moment, and also when you freshly pick it and just go wash it real quick and then eat it, it's crunchy and delicious. But when you buy it from the store, it doesn't taste normal.
This is the best salad I ever tasted. This salad is so much yummier than my mom's own salad.
Having like a fresh lettuce that you just picked it has its unique taste.
It was my first time ever trying bok choy and kale. They looked pretty weird at first. When my friends told me to try it, I just took a bite and it was super good.
Oh, it's so cute because they really have a new taste when they try like tomatoes from the grocery store. I mean, they don't taste the same as fresh from the vine, and just their brains are exploding. Like normally they want to ask for ranch and they just pop it without it. So that's amazing.
All right, so just to give you an example of some of the things that the teachers and the kiddos asked about that they could try to grow that we have been doing for the last couple years. They wanted to do more fruit, so we started with strawberries and we had a successful harvest. And then I've been getting asked for years, how can we grow watermelon in the classroom? And on the far left, we used Beto bucket systems and miniaturized rapidly maturing watermelons, and we were able to get a successful watermelon harvest in a classroom this year. We've grown cucumbers and peppers, and we actually did a trial of growing sweet corn and popping corn in the classroom using Beto bucket systems. Some things are more successful than others, but for all of them, we learn and we see what we want to try next. And so this advanced hydroponics using multiple different kind of systems really has turned the classroom into a indoor summer vegetable garden, so that kiddos that might not see this growing out in their backyard or community garden, now they can see it growing in school.
You are invited to the 2000.
So one of the challenges we face getting our community partners into the buildings with all the schedule issues inside buildings. So we decided to partner with one of our urban farms in the area, and we bused all of our, not all of ours, but we bused over 1,000 kids to the farm. And we had over 25 community partners all doing learning stations, everything centered around agriculture. And this is just a short clip so you can see it in action.
DCS Farm to School Celebration of Agriculture. This will be a celebration of agriculture featuring greenhouse tours, healthy snack tastings, learning stations, opportunities to interact with a variety of farm animals, and a chance to leave with a greater appreciation of where your food comes from. Join us at the Mid-Ohio Farm on the Hilltop.
So now we wanted to highlight one of our schools that started small with just one pre-K classroom, and then they grew into a garden enrichment program that reached the entire 700 students in the building. So this is the story of Georgian Heights Garden Club. And up in the top left corner, you'll see our star teacher, Victoria Johnson, and she is out west traveling right now, or we would have her here telling this story herself. But Victoria was a pre-K teacher, and she started Garden Project with her pre-K teachers years and years ago. And she had students that would come to her classroom from other grades asking if they could join in. So they came up with a plan to do a lunchtime garden club, and she opened that up to any students who wanted to attend one day a week during their lunch period or their lunch and recess. So the students chose to give up their recess time to come to garden club. That got so big that she didn't have enough space to accommodate all the kids who wanted to attend that class, that garden club during lunch and recess period. So they worked with the principal, and they have an art teacher who is there 4 days a week and then went to a school on the 5th day, a different school on the 5th day. So they reached out to the Unified Arts team and the principal to see if that art teacher could stay at Georgian Heights for that 5th day of the week. And Victoria and the art teacher led a garden enrichment program for every single student in the building. So every 3 weeks, each classroom got to come to an enrichment class during the school day. And our farm to school program paid for a sub to go into Victoria's pre-K classroom so she could do the garden enrichment during the whole day. So it was like one of their art, music, and gym special classes that the class would go to, but they would only have it every 3 weeks. This helped reach, like I said, 700 students. At the end of the year as a celebration, instead of busing them to the urban farm, we just brought the urban farm activities to this school and had a school-wide agriculture day. One thing that I love that Victoria told me is that the principal asked for us during their welcome back staff meeting for the teachers to do some type of garden enrichment activities. And the teachers said that that was the highlight of that professional development at the beginning of the year. They also incorporate these activities into their family nights. Anytime the school does anything after hours, sports, or math, science related, they are incorporating something from the garden into that night. Here are just a few examples of some of the projects that they did. They built a large pollinator garden in the beginning or the front of the school building, and each year the students are seed saving, they are planting new plants, they are weeding, they are tracking the pollinators that come to the garden. They also have 10 raised beds where they're growing herbs and vegetables. They have multiple varieties of milkweed back there, and they also have a really cool indoor garden learning lab, which is a central location in the building. So when it's time for garden enrichment, the kids are coming there, and that space opens right up into their garden space, their raised bed garden space. In this space, they're also learning about sustainable practices like seed saving, reusing materials, and composting. A few of the other activities that they do during garden enrichment, they're making milkweed seed balls to go in the pollinator garden and to take home. They're putting together the outdoor raised gardens. They are doing taste testing, and the kids are actually doing the harvesting and the food prep for their tastings. And one of their favorite harvests at the school is the bok choy. They love to do the bok choy and saute it with shallots and garlic. So we've talked about growing the harvest, the things you need to reach out to your community partners to get the support that you need. We've talked about funding opportunities. We've also talked about making sure that the teachers have what they need to follow through with the program. So some of the other things that we've incorporated are, you can see here, we have a cooking cart. So as a teacher, I used to bring in all of the blenders and the air fryers and stuff from my own house, but we've created 5 of these cooking carts that the teachers can rent out or borrow from the food service department, and our delivery services team will deliver it the day before their harvest. The teachers can use it. It has all the supplies, the cutting boards, the knives, the pans, the air fryer, the skillet, the blenders, the harvest basket, the harvest tools, everything that they're going to need to do the harvest recipe and complete the harvest tasting. We also have the blender bike, which can be delivered to schools for when they're doing their kale and spinach harvest to make their kale and spinach smoothies.
So we actually, from our original 46, it has developed into a very large cohort at CCS. So what we did after we had participants for several years is we brought a bunch of teachers back in for some qualitative and quantitative data on what was working and what was not, and what were the impact of the program like. And I can tell you that the data that the teachers shared was that the overwhelming most favorite thing for all of these students was harvest day, cooking and enjoying the food that they grew.
And we found that most of the kids were more eager to try things that they grew. They may have seen or been exposed to kale before in their lives and not been willing to try it. But when they saw that grow from the seed all the way to the kale plant, they were more likely to see it. And if they are participating in growing food, they're more likely to try it. If they enjoy it, then those kids are going to be going home and asking their parents to get it at home for family meals. So in the chat, we would ask all of you to think about one partnership that you could build in your community that might help you overcome some of these barriers. Using some of the things we talked about from this presentation, what can you or who could you reach out to in your community to help with your school garden barriers?
While you're doing that, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we were doing and providing for teachers when it was harvest time was guidance on safe harvest practices, because we want to make sure that we're harvesting and we're eating in classroom, but that we're not going to have any negative impacts from that. So in the Growing Teachers Supplemental Online Guidebook that is going to be in the links, there's 2 videos, both kid-friendly, hosted on YouTube. You can watch them right in class on safe food harvest practices. And then I'm excited to share, and this only happened the last day since we sent the links to Daniel, the 2-year project that was also funded by USDA Farm to School, where I was working with Ohio Department of Education and Workforce, Ohio Department of Agriculture, and the USDA. We created a very large produce safety in the school garden website with checklists and just a very robust, utilizable by just about any school garden. So I know we created it in Ohio, but you're going to find it applicable no matter where you grow. But it is a great resource that took a couple of years with a bunch of different school garden partners across the state. So now we have a really nice resource, and we will share that in the links in the follow-up, since we were not able to get that to you prior to this presentation.
How do we get to the chat?
So if we are ready to get to the chat, we are going to exit out of this presentation, and then we'll be able to access that chat. So go ahead and drop any questions you have in there. There is our contact information, but we also made sure that we shared that with Daniel. So you're going to get that in any follow-up email as well. You're welcome to reach out to us. We commonly get asked to assist with other programs since we've been working for a little bit and have had we sort of walk down the pathway, we'd like to say, with some best management practices. And so I'm going to head to, I think that's our last slide, and we're going to head out of this. And we are.
So just want to lift up a couple things from the chat here of the connections that folks are trying to make. Some folks are trying to connect with construction companies who may have extra materials, master gardeners and horticultural societies as well. I see one started working with another organization that works with students, so another community partner that that is mission aligned. Really cool connections. So, hey everybody, please join me in giving a big round of applause for amazing presenters of today. Thank you so much, Tim, and thank you so much, Katie. We're going to move into our Q&A portion of today. And so some really great questions came in during the presentation. I'm going to read them off right now. One asker is asking, this is such a great model and very cool to have so much support collaboration with OSU Extension. I'm curious if OSU Extension is doing this in other districts throughout the state.
So yes, I have done growing teachers throughout the seasons, training multiple times for fellow educators at the Ohio 4-H conference, traveled to Cuyahoga County, Mahoning County, Hamilton County, probably about 6 or 8 different counties throughout. And in fact, we just collaborated with one of our extension colleagues in FCS that here in Ohio, there is a limited amount of funding to implement GTS in a very easy to apply sort of internal OSU grant. So if you are an Ohio person, you would want to connect with your extension educator. That could be Ag and Natural Resources, which is what I am. That could be Family and Consumer Sciences, which is what my co-collaborator in Growing Teachers is, or that could be your 4-H educator. And that way you will be able to bring the resources from OSU Extension to grow your garden program.
Awesome, thank you. Next question is, district administration wants proof of the positive effects to fund anything for us. Do you have some research that could be shared? And before you answer, we did drop in the chat, and I'm gonna drop it again. We have some resources, and I'll also add them to the resource handout from the Eden Lab at UT Texas. They have some really amazing research. And also we also have in the network website a infographic as well that has all of the research on the positive effects of school gardens. But again, what research do you use to show the benefits of school gardens to administrators?
So I can share that me and my co-collaborator just submitted a manuscript with all of the data that we collected to a journal that's called Acta Hort, and we will be presenting our research findings next week at the International Horticulture Congress in Kyoto. And then that will get published, and we will be able to share a peer-reviewed journal article that has both qualitative and quantitative data collected from teachers and from garden leaders on the positive impacts that this has had on students here in Columbus City Schools.
So once you get that, can we share it with Daniel, and Daniel can share it out with everybody? Okay.
You bet. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll get that added we'll add all of these resources to an updated resource handout that will be available on our website and with the recording of this presentation. All right, next question. Is the Advanced Hydroponics Farm to School grant a specific type of Patrick Leahy Farm to School grants?
It was an implementation grant through Patrick, the Patrick Leahy Farm to School grant. And then that advanced hydroponics was just our title for our project. But I know there are quite a few new groups also doing hydroponics who were awarded the grant this year.
Awesome, thank you. Because I know the Patrick Leahy grant has like a few different types of grants that you can
We
apply
were
for.
an implementation grant.
Awesome, thank you. Um, I'm in Minnesota. I'm in Minnesota, and it just recently became Zone 5, but was growing Zone 4B. So this is about growing zones. I would love to do hoops, but I worry that they will not be adjusted as needed, and plants will bake with our extreme spring weather. What is your experience? How do you remind educators in managing hoop tunnels, especially over the weekends?
So what we do when we construct low tunnels to use as season extension, we don't put the hoops too high so that they're not negatively impacted by wind. And we don't use plastic. We use what's known as row cover or season extension garden cover. That is an innovation out of the nursery and landscape industry. It is a woven fabric that allows light to come through, oxygen to come through, and rainfall to come through, but does not overly build up heat underneath it. And then to provide sort of up to the minute support, I create a website post every Monday called The Week in the School Garden that gives guidance. And weather guidance is the first thing that's on that. Then I can share that out. Katie takes the link to that. She puts it in the Columbus City Schools newsletter, and then that gets sent to participating teachers.
And the information about those row covers that we use and the specific weight of the row covers is also in that Growing Teachers Throughout the Season guidebook.
Correct.
Awesome. You'll have such a great, amazing network of support between each other, which is really awesome to hear how you divide the work. It takes a village.
And there's a whole video in the online supplemental modules on the use of season extension.
Which is in the resource handout as well, right? Those links. Awesome. Yeah, lots of good stuff there. Another question is, how are you connecting with the cafeteria FNS program?
So the food that the students are growing in the building is not going into the food line in the cafeteria, just because it's not a consistent harvest. It's once a month, and usually the amount of food that they harvest is just enough to feed the classrooms that are growing. So they are using it. We might be eating in the cafeteria on non-breakfast or lunch times. We might be going down and using that space for our harvest lessons, but it's not actually going into the food service lines because the students who are harvesting aren't GAP trained and they don't have all of the required credentials to put it into the food service line. But we do harvest of the month or Ohio harvest meals throughout the school year, and our food service vendors provide different fruits and vegetables that were harvested here in Ohio for students throughout the year.
I did also drop in the chat a list of resources from LifeLab on garden to cafeteria specifically, too, if that's what this participant is asking for. We'll add it to the resource handout as well. Let's see. Next question. There are so many types of classroom-friendly hydroponic systems available through Amazon, but half the time it falls apart right away. Do you have a list of suppliers or brands that you recommend that are durable and as fail-safe as possible?
We have been using the AeroGarden Harvest unit, which you can purchase on Amazon.
We have found that Tower Garden, sort of the OG Tower Garden, to be a very robust system. It is a miniaturized version of a vertical farm and easy to clean.
Easy to set up, easy for kids to reach, easy to maintain. It has the least amount of leaks out of all the different systems that we've used.
And then our industry partner, Crop King, interestingly enough, was one of our grant partners for the USDA Advanced Hydroponics. And part of what their role is to put units in front of teachers and then collect the feedback from those teachers to inform their educational line, and their stuff is built like a tank. Literally, it is metal pieces and heavy duty.
It's like a huge erector set.
Yes, and so those would be some examples of things that are out there. But I agree with the poster. It is the wild, wild west out there, and it is very disappointing to fundraise and purchase a piece of equipment to find out that it was not robust and it does not last, because then you're out the money, and it's very difficult in some cases. So we have found we've tried a lot of things. I'll tell you what.
And same with the LED light. We use an Arrow Garden 45-watt light.
There's some robust stuff out there. We're happy to share what we use, and but those would be probably our three most bomb-proof ones. Would be the three that we listed.
Daniel, we can't hear you if you're talking.
I'm noting these down so I can follow up with you, and we can get all of these like little resources added to the handout. Another question is, it seems like you have a great relationship with the food service department. Does your district manage their own food services, or do you have a community partner?
Our food service is done in-house. So all of our elementary schools are getting their meals. They prep them at our food service warehouse, and then they're heated in our elementary school buildings. They don't have full kitchens, but our middle school and high school have full scratch kitchens.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Scratch cooking. Let's see. Next question is, are there connections to help promote the menu in the cafeteria? Is there a salad bar?
Again, middle school and high school, you will more often see salad bars. In elementary school, they might have a pre-packaged salad. And it's amazing to hear the kids talk about the salad that they're getting in their school lunches, which is like the iceberg lettuce versus the butter crunch or the kale or the spinach that they're growing in the classroom. They always are like, why can't we have this stuff in our classroom? So we're trying to make some of those changes for the students with the large with the food service meals. And if we do so last year one of the items that was added into our food service meals was watermelon radishes, and they came from the vendor cubed up. So our farm to school team would take those out to buildings and do tastings, show them how to use the skillet to heat them up and to season them. And we did that all before they saw them on the food service line, because we figured that many of the students would not choose them because they had never seen anything like that before. So we tried to introduce it to them before it was actually served in the meal.
Awesome. And I think we have time for one more question. Someone is asking, they're particularly interested in what seed starting kit on the hydroponic wall.
Seeds starting kit.
Is that from a slide in the presentation?
I'm not seeing. Yes.
Okay. So what we do for seed starting is we try to mimic either hydroponic production norms or just your basic propagation norms. The lights that we use are a type of 45-watt LED light that is made by Arrow Garden, which is actually a Scotts Miracle-Gro subsidiary. And it fits what's known as a 10-20 flat, which is the standard industry planting flat. And we start them tabletop under those lights. We don't have really a vertical wall. After we start our seedlings in that under that LED light, then they get transplanted either out into the garden in the raised bed, or they go into the hydroponic unit, or if they don't have an outside spot or the hydroponic unit is full, they are matured right underneath that light. And one of the things I forgot to mention is, if you did want to get started using growing teachers throughout the season, we filmed, me and my co-author, Carol Smathers, who's the farm to school a specialist for OSU Extension here in Ohio. The very first module in those 20 supplemental modules is a how-to video that's about 30 minutes long that will walk you through GTS and the 3 growing methods for the classroom.
And that'll be in one of the links that we've already shared with Daniel.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Timothy and Katie, for all of this rich and robust content that folks can dig into. So please, again, join me in the chat and in some symbolic round of applause for amazing presenters of today, or snaps. Thank you so much, guys. So just a couple wrapping up steps as we are finishing today's presentation. Want to share some last wrap-up announcements. If you'd like to continue joining the conversation with other school garden educators, we do have a forum, and this is a great way to connect directly with school garden educators about additional questions on food promotion, how they're connecting garden to cafeteria, or really just wanting to share successes that you might have had, that you might have figured out. This is a really great resource. It's a Google group based, and you can receive notifications of every email that gets sent. So I'm gonna drop this in the chat. The link to the forum. And of course, we want to hear your feedback for today. This is again how we can continue creating content that is relevant to you, that is helpful, or what content you want to see in the future. So the link to our feedback form will be dropped in the chat shortly as well. Before you go, please fill it out. It's really, really, really helpful. Okay, we're gonna stick around for a little bit so you have time to fill it out before you go. And again, thank you so much for being here today and for taking time to join us for this amazing presentation. If you want to continue connecting with us, please join us on Instagram at SGSO-Network. You can also find us on Facebook as well as SGSO-Network, our website, sgsonetwork.org, or send us an email to our info box if you have any other follow-up questions that we can continue supporting your school garden program or your work supporting school gardens. So again, I'm